to Driving Conversations, the only show filled with high-octane driving conversations about technology and innovation here in Orange County. From the one organization fueling both, OCTANE Driving Conversations, with your host, Austin Wildman.
Hi, welcome to OCTANE's Exposed Innovations, where we're going to drive the conversation, and together we're going to expose all the innovation that's happening in Orange County right here in our backyard. So for those of you who are just turning in or really getting a feel for what OCTANE is and what the purpose of Exposed Innovations is, we're going to expose innovation activity in OC right here in our own backyard, but also highlight stars within the OC ecosystem. We have so much opportunity and so much talent in the area, it'd almost be foolish and irresponsible for OCTANE, who is driving innovation, to not highlight some of the success stories. So we're going to jump right into it, and welcome to OCTANE. All right, and we're really the leaders right here. We're going to talk about how Orange County is one of the leaders for venture capital innovation, being top 10 really in the nation, with $546 million just invested in this area alone last year. So I'd like to welcome our guests, Christian and Sean. Christian, Sean, how you doing? Thanks for being on.
Doing very well. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you very much. We're happy to be here. We're excited to talk today.
Great. We're excited to have you. Now, you guys are with Cove Engineering, a product design firm, but also have a lot of experience growing up here locally to Laguna Beach, right? Mm-hmm. All right, growing up here locally, experiencing some innovation on that side, as well as Colex Engineering design, product design firm there. But also, you got a few more things cooking in the works here, which we're gonna get to that later. But before, let's get started. Who are you guys? Laguna Beach, right?
Yeah, we got started in Laguna Beach as children, and I think we'd be a little remiss or ungrateful if we didn't say we had a bit of a privileged upbringing. But I think both of us recall that time and remember that we knew it was going to take education and applying that education and hard work to be able to move back to Laguna Beach, to Orange County area. Got started when I was young, about 12 years old. Had my first job working for the Lightning Bolt Corporation in Laguna Beach. I think they were competing against OP and maybe Quicksilver at the time. And
so the surf industry?
Yeah, the surf industry. Okay. We were, basically at the time we were making the little stickers and things like that kids would put on their skateboards and things.
Awesome.
We grew up kind of as Laguna Beach rats, I guess, a little bit. Growing up, body surfing, and summer times we just practically live on the beach. But as Christian said, it was a great place to grow up. We're never taking it for granted. I think that there's a lot worse places we could grow up than Laguna. But I think, as Christian said, there was a lot of influential people around us at that time, and I think it kind of helped us understand that we needed to do something a little bit different, maybe. If
really shaped your kind of thinking, train of thought.
I think so. I think that we realized we needed to do something different if we were going to live like the people that we were surrounded by.
Gotcha. And so you guys just decided one day we'll just start Colex Engineering. No, was there anything that happened before growing up? I mean, you guys were talking to me how don't be shy here. I mean, cutting bodyboards, making wings, and RC flying planes.
That's how I got started. Actually, I think I spent every dime. I don't know if I was even making dollars at the Lightning Bolt Corporation. I spent every penny that I got there on buying remote control parts and electronics, and I spent the day traveling up to Hobby Shack, which was up in Fountain Valley at the time, to go buy electronic parts and design and build model gliders that I used to fly down in Dana Point.
I think Christian was we grew up, or he was probably more the innovative one. He was always taking things apart, whether he was playing with Legos or building blocks when we were 3, 4, or 5, or he was taking things apart and ending up with extra parts when he was done, or pulling G.I. Joes apart or something. I don't know. He was always building something.
Gotcha. Yeah, two brothers growing up. Let's jump into it. So we're here to talk about innovation throughout history and really what we have going on right now. As most of the people know listening, as well as you do. Throughout recent American history, we have specific revolutions that transcended our economy, such as the Industrial Revolution, like Ford Motors. Basic technology companies like Xerox back in the day, they were very innovative and forward-thinking. In the early 90s, we had the concept of cell phones, which nobody thought would take off, and neither you guys didn't think they would take off either.
Well, I think we did see that cell phones were going to take off. I remember actually a conversation that I was listening to on the talk radio very similar to this many years ago. There was a couple of guys talking about going from the analog phones to the digital phones, and they really didn't have a vision for where it was going to go. They had some concept that data would be something in the future, but they really didn't have a real clear understanding of what that technology was going to become.
And we all hear people say, "Oh, the 2020's always the hindsight's always 2020." People are always, "Oh, I wish I was involved." But after talking with you guys, we grabbed lunch not too long ago. You were involved, and what opportunities did you see? How did you come about seeing the opportunity that you took advantage of, and tell everybody what it was?
I think I'll talk for a second. I think that Christian and I were pretty fortunate that we had networked with some other folks in the industry, in the wireless communication industry, and we were able to start our first company around 2000, 2001. And we've been in business ever since. I think Christian and I probably had 6 or 7 companies together, but at that time was our first company in around 2000, and it was an architectural and engineering firm called Cellular Science, and we ended up I think we built over 2,000 cell sites for T-Mobile and Singular at the time, and really gave us a lot of exposure to the wireless communication industry and where it was falling short. We were able to find where we could build a better mousetrap, where we could start being really innovative and coming along and trying to grow the company that we were in, but also coming up with other ideas on how to fix problems, be innovative.
So let's get tactical. We were talking about at lunch, in Paris. There was 4 blocks. You were describing it almost as a Rubik's Cube. Paint a little picture for me here.
Right. So Christian was really the engineer behind the product that we developed, one of our first products, I guess, and it was called the Rubik's Shelter. And basically what it was a kind of a restaurant freezer-sized shelter that you could walk into for the wireless industry. So they went at the base of antenna sites for cell sites. And the problem at the time was the wireless operators like Verizon and Singular and T-Mobile, they were having capacity issues. They needed to put more and more callers onto one radio. And at the time, they said they'd never need to go to 2 radios or 3 radios. And these are refrigerator-sized radios that we're talking about inside the shelters that they had. So Christian was able to come up with the idea of kind of, if you could think of a Rubik's Cube, or the ability to move all the equipment around inside the shelter to be able to access it. So there was moving carriages to move the actual refrigerator-sized equipment around. There were wireless tracks for cable management, I guess you'd say, and also a refrigerator cooling system underneath the floor. So what we were able to do is we were able to take a shelter that was, I don't know, normally 30 feet by 40 feet, and we were able to reduce that size down to a fraction of the size, a quarter of the size, and take that weight down from like 50,000 pounds to 20,000 pounds. And basically the operators, they had a need, there was a problem, we had a solution, and they jumped on it. And we were a mom and pop shop at the time. Our first customer was Nextel, and we were shooting on all cylinders. I think we did probably $7 million the first
6 months. Yeah,
$7
million in the first 6 months, Chris?
$7 million in the first 6 months, and then we ended up being lucky enough to exit that company. We sold to a local Orange County company, public company, about $1 billion, and ended up doing. Sean went on to sell $25 million in that product over the next year to help us earn our earn-out agreement, and went very well.
Yeah. So I traveled around the world selling Christian's product. It was really pretty easy to sell because it was a very disruptive product, right? And that's what it's all about. It's really recognizing where the problem is and how is there a solution there. And we had a fantastic solution. We just needed people to hear it. And once they got the word out, we were very successful.
Where the solution is, let's for the entrepreneurs who might be listening, let's get a little bit more tactical. So, Sean, I think it's interesting. You're kind of take on this is, okay, how do I grow this? How do I get this to the next step? And Christian, please correct me if I'm wrong. Yours was more, okay, let's look at the actual technology. How do we actually disrupt and solve this problem? Let's get tactical. For the entrepreneurs listening, what was your approach? Was there any, was there 3 key steps in there that you guys took?
I don't know that I break it down into 3 key steps that I took for innovation at that time, but it was being involved at the time and recognizing the technology that we had and not underestimating what can happen with that technology moving forward into the future. And I think particularly on this application where, as Sean said, capacity was the real issue. You might remember some of the commercials that were playing at the time back then. They started with the red nationwide coverage map that showed, hey, you can talk from California to New York. And then you'll probably remember the very next commercial that came out, which was, can you hear me now? Right? And that can you hear me now was in response to the capacity problem. And what was happening to the operators at the time was that they were paying, let's say, $500 a month for a given cell site in order to lease that space from a landowner. And as we started adding more radios, we were designing it at our company at that time. We were designing that in there. Operators were paying $5,000 a month. And so they really needed a solution to solve that. And that's where we came up with that.
So we kind of talked about, revolutionary, the Ford, what Ford did back in the day. We've talked about the cell phone bubble and really kind of the wireless electronics that really boosted up. We've talked about how, we really think we're on the verge of a bubble of the next innovation, revolutionary period as far as robotics, AI. Just a few years ago, we have an AI, Watson from IBM, competing in Jeopardy. Where is this taking us? And Christian, we've talked about on the technology side, where's this going?
Well, I think that you're right. Where this is going right now in robotics and AI is really a conversation, just like we're having here today, and being able to converse with a robot and being able to have that move from simple speech to text, which is what you can do with Watson now, to more of a true artificial intelligence where it starts to gain or learn over time. Currently with Watson, you can give it 2 words and it can respond to those 2 words. You give it 3, 4, 5 words, and then it starts to be able to respond with 10 or 15 words. So it's starting to be able to learn, and that's the direction I think we're definitely going on the AI side.
So AI, what is AI? Now that's a broad question right there. But for those who don't know.
Very broad question. I would say in the simplest way, it's for a machine or a robot to be able to intuit, or basically to be able to solve problems based on instinct. That's the way people do it. And that's the new thing that's coming to robots and AI at this time, is the ability for that robot to take a relatively small set of data and respond in a big way. And those are some of the things that I think we're going to be talking about at Coffee at the Cove coming up here soon. We'll go into more depth about how that will work.
Coffee at the Cove, August 8th. Sign up now through OCTANE. All right. Also, now let's get back to a term that we talked about, open source. And we talked about open source and how that is important, not just for entrepreneurs, but really anybody who is making advancements, not just in AI, but other parts of technology within our ecosystem. So what's open source?
Well, open source, I think, honestly, I think we'll all be looking back in a decade or more from now, and we'll look back and we'll say that what unlocked the door, it will be open source or open architecture, is going to be what we pinpoint as what opened up the door to artificial intelligence, what opened up the door in robotics to having robotics working with people, living alongside the people, cohabitation with robots.
And having smaller innovative companies that can now play alongside the big boys like the Toyotas and Hondas, where they used to have Osimo was the name of the game, and now with collaborative robotics, they call cobots for collaborative robotics. They're able to smaller companies are able to play in this space now. Collaborative robotics they allow humans to interact in the same space that a human is, so they're safe. They have different sensing technologies that allow them to interact with a human, and if something gets in its way, it can sense that, whether it's vibration, touch, collision avoidance technology, various things that allow a robot to work directly with humans now.
Let me give you an example of,
Sure.
of the open architecture. One of the frameworks that's out there right now in robotics is something called ROS, or Robot Operating System. And what that's allowed us to do is to take advantage of things like Sean was talking about. The Honda Corporation, very large corporation, develops Osimo. It's an autonomous robot that can do quite a few things. Other corporations, other universities allow us to stand on their shoulders and utilize the technology that they've developed, the libraries that they've developed, to put them into current robots, into my robot,
Right.
and allow me to leapfrog ahead. So I'm not spending my time reinventing the wheel for vision systems,
Right.
for inverse kinematics, for some of the relatively complex problems that need to be solved in robotics. I can put those in and move forward without reinventing the wheel.
And Sean, you brought up, let's see, robots being able to collision with humans, being able to respond to touch and vibration. Now, I know you guys have Colex Engineering. I might just be getting a hunch, but it sounds like you have a little something in the works here that you're working on. Maybe even a startup robotics
We
company?
just might, Austin. We just might. We've come up with an idea for massage robotics, for
Massage
being able
robotics.
to being able to give massages from a robot that can interact with a human through Watson, a voice technology, or force touch through HMI, human-machine interface. Christian is the innovator really behind it.
Yeah, it's a life-size robot that can feel you, can respond to you, and we can develop a massage that will work for one person and then calibrate for any other person.
Well, now, wait a minute. I've gotten a massage before, and, if I'm getting pressed too hard on my back, can I say that to the robot? Will it actually be able to understand the commands I'm giving it? And, I mean, does this thing work?
Sure, we have a working prototype right now, and you can do just that. You can't talk to it yet, but you will be able to talk to it. You'll be able to say a little bit to the right, a little bit to the left, a little bit softer, a little bit harder, just the way you like it.
Absolutely. Well, I tell you what, if you if you need some trial and error, I'd be happy to donate my time. But so you guys are going to be actually at the Coffee of the Cove. And Sean, are you going to be, Christian and Sean, you guys going to be there with us?
Yeah, we'll be there. I believe it's August 8th, is it?
August 8th?
Yeah, we'll be there with a full demonstration. Our robot basically giving demonstrations, massage demonstrations, and we'll be able to go into more detail about the business plan and how we envision massage robotics turning into a full spa network across the nation, and hopefully be the next billion-dollar solution. We know it's coming. The wave's coming with robotics. We're going to ride it again.
So I tell you what, you rode the cell phone wireless communication site wave, if you will. You got this massage robotics thing in the works. Let's talk about maybe where everything, the whole industry is going to be going. Where is this robotics AI combination going to stop? And is AI robotics only here to stay? I mean, at what point is this going to be in our daily lives?
I think that where it's going is cohabitation. And as Sean mentioned earlier, the collaborative robots and giving the ability for a robot that is a life-size robot being able to cohabitate with humans, converse with humans, and provide services that augment our life. I think that's definitely the direction it's going, and I think, like I said earlier, we'll look back in a decade or so and say that it was open architecture and open source and frameworks like ROS that allow us to do that.
Yeah, basically, it's a computer in a body, right, with some open source architecture, and I think it's going to open up just so many doors on what we're going to be able to do. We know that there's some exciting things coming down the pipe right now, and we're hoping that a lot of people get involved in Orange County and want to take that ride.
I think the secret that I've kind of recognized over time in entrepreneurship and working in this robotics business is recognizing the pattern that alongside the evolution of technology, that entrepreneurs tend to see or recognize the application of the technology. They don't underestimate that.
That's a good point.
And I think that that's the key, is not underestimating where the technology is going to go. That's what happened in the cell phone industry, which led to the undercapacity. In robotics and AI right now, we're not going to be the ones that underestimate cohabitation with robots.
Well, that's great. And you know what? It was exciting to hear about how you guys didn't underestimate the technology when it came to wireless and cell phones. I'm excited to see where you guys go now. Thank you for coming on the show with us today.
Thank you for having us.
And I want to thank everybody who's tuning in. Thank you for choosing OCTANE, the place where we like to expose innovation. And a little message going out: if you see innovation, don't hide it. Let's expose it. Let's keep the conversation going. Let's make Orange County strong. Let's be the leaders in tech and medical when it comes to Orange County. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.